I want a cinematic universe that's like fantasy setting, but also not Lord of the Rings, you know? Like
I was right about to say, what about Lord of the Rings?
Don't like Lord of the Rings. Something about Lord of the Rings just bores me. I don't know. Like,
not a fan of the novels either, nothing.
No, I read The Hobbit and I enjoyed that, but I try to read the actual Lord of the Rings, and just something about that I was like, oh, and then like, listen, I have gone ass deep into Dragon Age lore. I have read some of the most boring codex entries, but what they do in Lord of the Rings, where it's just like pages and pages and pages on genealogy, I can't. Something about it, I can't do it. It's just, I can't do it.
Also, Tolkien, and God, the nerds are going to give me such grief for this, but I mean, I'm just being, like, as a writer, like, Tolkien is a master of world building and lore and all of that. His actual prose leaves a bit to be desired. It's a tad on the dry side, okay?
Yeah, I would agree with you, having just read, like, I would say, like, the first couple chapters of the actual Lord of the Rings books. But,
and he's got this weird thing with how often he repeats certain descriptions, particularly when it comes to hobbits and feet. Just like, they're hairy feet, they're hobbity hairy feet. I'm like, what? At least he did in the main books. I don't know about
Do you
the
think
Hobbit.
he had a foot fetish?
That'd be a weird way to express it. Hobbit feet, of all things? Jesus Christ.
Hey, peep, someone out there, right? Rule 34.
Oh God! Like if I put Hobbit feet and Rule 34 into Google, and if I wanted to destroy that part of my mind, I could, but I won't.
Oh, I'm sorry I brought it back to the Dick Podcast. Welcome to the Dick Podcast.
Even I have limits to my depravity, and that's just, there's certain places you don't go, folks. There's certain places you don't go.
Oh God. Anyway,
we're gonna talk about marketing.
Yeah, how do we get out of this?
Do you know what Dragon Age You know what Dragon Age 4 marketing needs? Hobbit feet. That's what it needs.
Hobbit feet right up in your face, slathering some hot titties. That's what. I got graphic. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Right when we started to get good iTunes reviews, it all goes down the shitter now.
Yeah. Oh, thank you to everyone who's been leaving iTunes review. That's been very sweet.
So just in general, I mean, I really get a kick out of it. Even if it's a handful of people, if it's one, if it's multiple, whatever it is, I always get a kick out of people saying that they're enjoying the podcast, but in particular, there's been a couple of tweets and comments of people saying, you know, I'm binging all the episodes, or these make my commute to work so much easier. As someone who loves podcasts, I've done that for a long time. I've binged listened to other people's podcasts, and I, especially before I moved, I used to have a somewhat long commute, and so I would do that with other people's podcasts. That people are now doing that with ours is kind of surreal, and it's like, oh, warm, fuzzy feelings and stuff.
I would agree. I used to have an hour commute, and that was the worst. But, like, I consumed, like, all of Adventure Zone. That's, like, all I listened to for, like, a good couple months of my life. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so one of the, we've got a few on there now. Light Mass was one of the first ones that, I think that might have been the first review.
Thank you.
Does it say For the Stage or For Forest Stage? Was another one, and then another Clover also left us another 5-star review on iTunes. One of these, I'll read like a small bit of it. Oh, just a part where this person says, as someone who doesn't regularly listen to podcasts, I highly recommend this to all Bioware fans. I particularly like that. This person is not necessarily a podcast person, and they still enjoyed it. So many thanks to all of you.
Giant loves and kisses, and I hope that whatever world state you have in Bioware doesn't end up fucking you over in Dragon Age 4. Yeah. Can I say that's like number one worry? Like, you get attached to a world state, and then it goes into the next game, and you go, oh, those were all the wrong decisions.
Not if you have like 6 different world states queued up, ready to go.
One day I'm going to have to show you my pride and joy spreadsheet where I have all of my world states put together, and there's 20, and I'm ashamed a little bit, but
Oh, that's nothing to be ashamed. That's a work of art. That would be an incredible. At least release the template of that spreadsheet. That way, other people can.
I have this thing. I'm just gonna brag about my spreadsheet because I'm really proud of it. I have the goddamn thing, like all the choices in the keep. Like there's different pages in it, and like it even has for each of the choices, there's like a little scroll down menu. So you're like, all right, for this character, for this choice, you click a button. Like, what choice do they have? And it like pops down the 2 or 3 options, and you click it, and it's just so nice. And it has like like statistics built in, like, oh, how many people chose this one? Oh, 11 or 12 or, you know, whatever. And I work so hard on the goddamn thing, and it's color-coded, and it's beautiful.
I think BioWare is probably very appreciative of that. Honestly, like, I can't remember what special feature or thing it was, but when they talked about when they first conceptualized doing save imports, between Mass Effect 1 and 2, they were just like actually building the technology to do something like that, to make sure that like all of these different combinations have like good integrity and there's not like critical contradictions. Like that actually took them a while to build that out.
Well, they have the keep, and I think that's what they're trying to do with it. But it only has like 10. So if you have more than 10, you're just fucked. And I got twice that amount. What am I supposed to do?
They didn't anticipate the superfan.
No, it's also it's very beautiful, but it's also kind of clunky and it slows you down a bit. So if you really just want it quickly, it kind of like drags. It really just needs like a face value kind of ugly, beautiful rainbow spreadsheet that I made. I love this. Maybe I'll release a template because it is very useful. But anyway.
So our second point on marketing is more spreadsheets.
Yes, I love it. God, how do we, I don't know, marketing. We're going to talk about marketing.
Well, I mean, the keep is technically a marketing ploy, isn't it? I mean, other than being utilitarian.
I guess. Like, there's like a little like mini, oh, no, you can buy your choices, if you know what I mean. Like, each choice has like a picture represented for it. So like if you want to buy a print of all your choice, like the pictorial choices laid out, you can hang it on your wall and have that. So I guess you could do that. But anyway, point is, we want to talk about how each of the kind of mostly Mass Effect, Dragon Age, how they were marketed and how they differ from each other. You've been a fan of BioWare for a while, right?
For a very long time, all the way back to KOTOR.
Something that I really want to ask is, do you remember Dragon Age Origins being marketed?
I do, yeah. I don't know if I was as attached to it as I was in the lead up to Mass Effect, but I do remember Dragon Age Origins being marketed, yeah.
How the hell? Like, pretty much all of the famous marketing things that I've seen, and maybe there was more. I've only, I think there's 4 main trailers that I saw, and only one of them had actual gameplay in it. The rest of this was these pre-rendered trailers that, for the most part, having played the game first and watched the trailer second, they make no sense at all.
Yeah, and I seem to remember a lot of rock music, although I don't remember if it was in the trailers.
I think one was Marilyn Manson. I couldn't quite make it out, but he was like, this doesn't fit.
It was a lot of rock music and blood and, fun fact, I used to be the manager of a GameStop. I was doing that at the time leading up to Dragon Age, and so, a lot of the marketing materials that were being sent was just, white signs, just, kind of like the Dragon Age cover, just a lot of blood splatterings everywhere.
And it just doesn't fit the game at all.
I mean,
I think
they do have the blood system or the splatter system for the blood. So blood, there's the mods now to get the blood off of the character's teeth and stuff like that. So there is a lot of blood everywhere, but it's not the rock music. It's not death metal blood. It's more just kind of
Yeah, if I feel like if I saw the trailers for it, I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna have these 2 smoking babes and this giant, we're gonna fight dragons, and we're gonna go on a mountain, and my eyes are gonna glow, and I'm gonna have this sweet tat on my face, and then you load up Dragon Age Origins, and there's a bunch of gracefully singing ladies, and then no offense to the original designs of Morgan and Liliana, but their faces are fucked. But it's just not the same game almost. I feel like I would have bought it oh man, I got ripped off, and then returned it. But I almost feel like they duped people a little bit with the Dragon Age
I think
trailers.
I think that they were coming into, I mean, there was probably a lot of EA, right? It was probably early on in the relationship between BioWare and EA was, at that point, if you're a recently acquired developer for a publisher, I imagine some of the plug and play functionality of that publisher, obviously besides just distribution, is going to be marketing and advertising. So they probably just rotated somebody off of some other series or some other project, which is all right, figure it out, man. It's got dragons, it's got blood. What do you want to do with this? And they were just I don't know, is Blur available? Is Blur Studios available to make some to make some kick-ass CGI trailers. I mean, that's what it feels like. It's like a completely different company, essentially, was in charge of the marketing as compared to the people making it.
There's just no other explanation for it. Or maybe you do actually know it was. I mean, it would have to be another company. It looks nothing like Dragon Age, like, at all. But it's just, it's amazing to me that, like, when it's, usually these are older mods, but when you go into, like, Dragon Age Origins mods, there's so many mods trying to get the game to look like what it was in the trailer. Because I think a lot of people were really excited about what it was, like, marketed to be and then what it came out as. Like, thankfully, the game that it was ended up being really good. But can you imagine, like, the fallout if it was, like, a bad game? Like, oh, you had all of this cool stuff and then it was a shit pile. But I also feel like that was, like, what you did back then, almost. Like, a lot of major games would have, like, this cinematic trailer that, like, for the most part, you would never see anything like that. And then, like, the actual game looked like, 2 pixels, and that was that. Like, I almost feel like it's like a relic, in a sense.
I completely agree with that. I was actually going to say something very similar to that, which is, like, Dragon Age Origins is a departure from the Baldur's Gate lineage, but it's mainly that from the cinematic and conversation standpoint. I mean, you don't have to stay, like, you could play it in third person, but you could also just as easily play Dragon Age Origins entirely in isometric. Mm-hmm. And so it's really not that much of a deviation from the stuff like Baldur's Gate, but it was, I think after that acquisition by EA, it's like, hey, we got to update this to modern, to sell it in a modern sense, even though it really is, to this date also, still kind of like one of the best throwbacks to CRPGs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I agree that it is kind of a relic, but it's, I mean, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, like there's a bunch of games that are notorious for just what you said, like really awesome CGI trailers, and then the gameplay we already know is nothing like that. Oh, The Old Republic, which is a game that I like quite a bit for Star Wars. I mean, those Blur Studios CGI trailers are like amazing. I'm like, I wish actual Star Wars movies had fight scenes that good.
It's interesting how, like, I don't know, times have changed. Like, I was looking at, to kind of prepare for this episode, I was looking at all the different trailers for Mass Effect and Dragon Age, which Mass Effect has an interesting thing I'll talk about in a minute. But for Dragon Age, mostly for Origins, it's the cinematic trailers like we were talking about. 2 had actually a mix. They had, like, that one cinematic trailer where Hawk fights the Aeroshock, which kind of doesn't really make sense, but it makes more sense. But then they also had a lot of actual trailers of gameplay, sort of. It was like, you knew that these were moments in gameplay, but they were changed in a sense, and like the camera was edited in a way that you don't actually see it like that, but at least the models are mostly the same. Mm-hmm. And then in Inquisition, like, for the most part, a lot of things are unchanged. Like, there's a couple texture issues, like Vivian has blue eyes in the trailer, which is kind of bizarre. Yeah. There's a couple off things, but for the most part, what you see in Dragon Age Inquisition is kind of what you get. Like, if you had Flycam, you can easily create a lot of what the trailers were. So it's kind of slowly molded. But I also think that, like, speaks of the times also. Like, we have now gotten to the point where graphics are so good that we're just using gameplay as the trailers. Like, look at what Anthem did. All we have in Anthem is an actual, well, what they say, an actual gameplay as a trailer. So, yeah.
And Inquisition, like you said, it's pretty much all in-game stuff. Mm-hmm. The rock and roll feel, like the rock music stuff, came a little bit more. I feel like, in some sense, Dragon Age 2 is more in the direction of the Dragon Age, and as far as its content, is more in the direction of the Dragon Age Origins marketing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just watched it, like, not too long ago, like today, and I can't remember if it had, like, heavy rock music or not. If it did, it was at least subtle enough not to be noticeable, whereas the Origins it was like, wow, this is just kind of awkward. Yeah. And then Inquisition just has the in-game music.
I think with that stuff, I just attribute that to the early relationship of EA. Like, someone at EA probably had, like, a really narrow or a not fleshed out view or vision for what the relationship was going to be like. So they thought, oh, here's this like, nerdy developer that makes really niche RPGs, and what we'll do as like the mainstream publishers, we'll combine that with like really cool mainstream. That they didn't really flesh out what they were going for. So what we got was that really sort of mismatched marketing, and then by Inquisition, conversations were had so that they understood what the actual product was that they were marketing a little bit better.
Yeah, but I like, again, coming back to of the times, like back in 2010 or whenever it was, 2009, like it was a little bit more acceptable to have trailers set to like crappy hard rock music.
Yeah, it was,
because it's just what it was. I think that the first trailer that I can remember where it like didn't have heavy rock music and like kind of, I think, affected later trailers was, is it Gears of War where it was Mad World?
Oh, and it was a genius trailer. It's one of the best trailers of all time.
Yeah. Like that, I think that suddenly started the trend of like really like visually violent images, but then the music is really soft and calm, and I think we're still kind of seeing the echoes of that a little bit.
Well, then the year after, the Halo 3 trailer that had the Marty O'Donnell from the Halo soundtrack, the score, it's like just the piano, like a really light minimalist piano score, and this amazing visual was another one that was like that.
So what year did Gear of War come out? Like, I think that would have been before Dragon Age, right?
Yeah, that would have been 2006, I think.
Okay. That's what I thought. So yeah, for some reason Dragon Age just kind of got the leftovers of like, let's throw some Marilyn. Okay, random, but did you know there's a Dragon Age movie called Dawn of the Seeker. Somehow, which I should say, this is kind of, I think it was made after Dragon Age 2. Somehow they got Seether to do a song for that movie. And it's bad.
Yeah.
So, like, I think, even until, like, Dragon Age 2, that'd be, like, what, like 2011, 2012-ish, like, when this movie came out, like, they were still, like, hard rock is so cool, I know what the kids wanted, it's Seether.
There have definitely been similar mistakes made in various gaming franchises, for sure.
Oh, man.
What about currently? Like, do you? I was thinking. I don't know why this came to mind because we're talking about CG trailers, but the newest Tomb Raider game just got announced.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, and it had an all CG trailer for the announcement, and I watched it, and I just thought, I don't even understand why you would do this anymore. I have no interest in it. Like, it's somewhat of a teaser for the story, but I'm like, not really. It's not like there's a lot of story implications in this, and it's useless as far as understanding what the game's going to look like. So I have no interest in those anymore. Like, if Bioware was still doing that, I'd be seriously pissed, because I hate those trailers now. Now,
is it like a teaser trailer? It was like a couple seconds and that's it? Or was it like a legit, like 2-3 minute?
Yeah, it was like 3 minutes long.
Okay, so I'm thinking of when they first announced Andromeda, they had like that, I don't know, maybe 30-second spot where like there was maybe like it's like that guy and he's like looking at like the different landscapes, and then it just kind of zooms out Andromeda, and that was all we had for a while. Yeah. I think that's all right till he's announced like this game is coming soon. Like that's one thing. Right. It's more like a hype. But then if it's just like a whole full minute 2 to 3 CGI, it's, I don't know. One thing I think, with jumping back to like how Mass Effect handled trailers, do you remember the first Mass Effect trailer?
Was it the one where the one that I remember, honestly, is the one with Calliston, and they never fucking made Calliston. I don't know if that was the first one. I think that was the second one.
I didn't see that one. The one I saw was, it made Mass Effect look like a movie. In a sense, like it was like a crappy movie trailer from like 2009, and it kind of had like a little bit of the rock stuff, and it's like, oh, you're one man. I think it's like voiced over by the general whose name I can't remember. It's been a while, but it kind of made it like a movie, and like kind of the other couple trailers made Mass Effect to like it felt more like a movie trailer in a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if, like, video games for a while, they didn't know how to market themselves. Like, do we kind of market it like a toy? Like, toys, like, they used to have, a little bit of animated like thing and then you'd actually see the toy, or is it like a movie where you're just like supposed to like show all the cool parts and then they want to do that? Like maybe there was like some hiccups of like, we don't know how to handle this now.
Well, I mean, I imagine there was probably some of that, and then also with Mass Effect 1, I mean, at that point, I think they were very consciously trying to make the most cinematic game ever. Mm-hmm. And I think they may have succeeded for the time, right? Like, maybe part of that was them, like, deliberately trying to build that association with the film, because, like, when Mass Effect 1 came out, it was pretty unusual in just how cinematic it was. Like, now there's lots of games that have that level of sort of film quality to their look, but Mass Effect was really kind of first out of the gate with that, I feel.
I guess I would also like explain the film grain that you had to turn off because it was hideous.
Right, exactly.
But yeah. So maybe they were just, like you said, designing Mass Effect to be more like a movie, which is why they would market in that sense. Okay. So then I guess Dragon Age suffered from the what do we do?
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Yeah, what I remember most about the Mass Effect was that one trailer. For people that don't know, Therum, where you find Liara in Mass Effect 1, was originally going to be a planet called Caliston, which is still there on the galaxy map, but you can't land on it. And it was going to be much more fleshed out. Like, there was going to be a whole nother settlement, a whole nother hub area that you could explore with shops and everything. That was one of the things that got cut for time. But when they had that sort of scene in the trailer of like, do you go to Noveria, which is obviously one of the other planets, or Caliston, and I can't remember which one he chooses in the trailer. People were like, oh, that's going to be a major story planet, Caliston. And then you get to the game, you're like, what the fuck happened to Caliston? Cut for time, renamed Therum.
That kind of reminds me of, it wasn't quite a trailer, but Dragon Age Inquisition had something sort of similar with Crestwood. They had some sort of like, I forget how long it is, like 20 or 30 minutes long of just like gameplay of Inquisition, and it is completely different than the game we got. Like absolutely completely different. Have you seen this, or?
I do, but I don't remember it strongly, because I remember I watched almost all of the gameplay videos leading up to Inquisition, but I don't remember clearly. Mm-hmm.
Like aside from like the UI's different, the lighting engine looks different, like, you know, the way the character kind of handles looks a bit different. There's all of that, but also Varric's model looks a bit different, whatever. But they have this thing where I think the setup was like, oh, Red Templars are landing. We can either like go with our soldiers and fight the Templars, but then leave the city unarmed, or we go fight the city and lose soldiers.
Oh,
so there was
right.
like. Yeah, there's more choices, and like I forget what they do in the the demo, but they choose one, and Varric gets upset because like you see all the dead bodies of the people he couldn't save. He's like, we should have done the other one. We like, look what we've done, and like it was kind of they even had like a little like cutscene for it, and all that got cut. So it's even like looking in the game files, you can see some cut things. But yeah, it's interesting how much they cut, but then is also in the trailer. So when you watch all the trailers and then you get to the game, you're like, where's this thing? Where did it go?
That's like one of the most common things right now, in particular in the modern sense, because now people have gotten really proficient at making the compilations of E3 reveal trailer versus gameplay. I don't know if you're familiar with.
I'm familiar with No Man's Sky.
well, there's that, but there's a YouTuber called, I guess it's pronounced Kroby Cat.
I think my husband loves that guy.
He's made a ton of comparison videos that are just like quick cuts of different scenarios, and in particular, he did one with the most recent Ghost Recon, with the final product versus what Ubisoft showed as their initial gameplay reveal, and it's just like, oh my god, it's night and day. But that's been going on for a while. Like what you mentioned with Dragon Age, the same thing for Mass Effect 1. The first ever Mass Effect 1 gameplay that they showed, I want to say at X06, which was the Microsoft event that they used to do. That was drastically different. Like they had a true interrupt system where like interrupts were physically animated all the time, and like you could actually like the interrupt system in the conversation was a lot more in depth, and Shepard's character model was different. The armor was a lot more detailed. When you look at like the ambient occlusion and the lighting for the one Flux, the bar that's on the Citadel, when you go to that exact spot in the game, it looks nothing like that amount of detail. Like behind the bar actually had, like unique meshes and textures for everything. It wasn't like that one solid texture behind it. It seemed like they had to cut a lot to make the game, I don't know, run smoother, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's common.
I know that
now.
was... Yeah, I know that was at least Inquisition's, I'm going to say excuse on it, where they had to, like, port it to, like, the older consoles, so they had to cut a lot of stuff out. But I guess, which you reminded me, if you ever look at comparisons for the trailer of Andromeda and what Andromeda ended up to be, it's also very night and day.
I was right about to say, so it is different when you watch the comparison videos. I take issue with at least one of those comparison videos.
Which one?
I don't know which one. I mean, it's the one that... so it's the one showing the cutscene where Dad Ryder is setting the explosive and they're right about to go into the Ket base on the first planet, on Habitat 7.
Mm-hmm.
When I play my game, even completely unmodded, and honestly, I don't even think I have graphics mods per se for Andromeda, it looks damn near like the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
When I see that comparison video, I go, that's on low settings or it's from a console. Like if you play on ultra everything on PC with a good PC, when I play that scene, I think some of the lighting looks better than what was in the trailer. That's just my take on it, but like I think that has to do with Frostbite as an engine, quite frankly. Kind of like what you mentioned with Inquisition, where it's easier to market with the actual game. But yeah, there's that one comparison video where when they show the actual gameplay, I'm like, I suspect that is at the very least on medium, if not low settings for PC, or it's from a console.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my theory.
There was, now that I have a computer that actually, plays it at a decent, not low setting, I got to replay it again because, like, which I mentioned I was doing a replay of Andromeda and I stalled out and I haven't touched it again. Always happens. But the one that sticks out to me as being the most changed was a scene where, like, I think it's in Drax Quest, where they're hanging the guy over the ledge.
Oh yeah, that one is different.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. And, like, I think that, like, it's the animation. Like, yeah, the lighting's different, whatever. But it's also the facial animations. It's like, all right. This is a little different.
Yeah, and the background. Like, in the trailer, there was a lot more detail of the background. Yeah. That one is different.
Yeah. So I guess, like, my question is, all of that stuff was at least somewhat done. What happened to it? Where'd it go? Why did they take it out? What happened?
That's a really good point.
Because, like, it was in the engines. Like, did they only have it for one course, so to speak? Like, they, there's different choices in the scene. They only had one choice versus the other? Or, like, why did they take it out? Like, there's probably a couple other things like that where, like, they had one part of it finished but not the other. Like, would it... I don't even know. Would it be better to have one scene look a lot better than the other one so you kind of know, like, oh, they ran out of time to do the other half? Would that be better or worse? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would have to know more about how they... Yeah, I just don't know. I guess we would have to be, like, in the studio to really know why that decision was made. But you're right. It's an interesting contradiction.
Because, like, you can already tell, like, they really prioritize some romances over the others. So, like,
Cora, Cora,
Cora, and Jal. Jal has some, and I think PB. It's mostly Vetra. I think Liam. I don't really remember Liam's that well, and what I do remember was kind of boring.
Poor Liam. Everything
Sorry,
about
Liam.
We just trash him for everything.
I whatever. But and then Reyes. Come on, Reyes. Where's the Reyes? Where's more Reyes content? That's what I want. Anyway, but yeah, it's they definitely prioritize some romances. Why didn't they do it for other things? I guess I don't know. That's just my question. Fuck. I wanted to go to something. I forgot what it was now.
Well, I mean, kind of talking about Anthem. Does it feel a little bit quiet right now? Like, are you surprised we haven't seen more, or do you think that's just their strategy to kind of keep it until closer to release?
I I'm not quite sure. Like, they have... It's been mostly quiet for the mainstream, but, like, there is one dev on the Anthem Reddit that's actually fairly active and, like, answers some questions. Not really so much on story, but, like, on gameplay questions, if that makes sense. Like, oh, are we going to have X or Y? He's like, well, we were planning to do X and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's actually some, like, decent amount of information on the Anthem subreddit. And, like, I don't remember the guy's name, but there's some guy out there that's making, like, fairly regular Anthem podcast, like, from the beginning. It's been almost a year now. Dude, what is your content? Let us know how to maximize your content. I would love to know that.
Oh, is it the guy who's... I know there's one podcast. I don't know if you and I talked about it, but it's super high quality. And I think he's a radio guy.
Yeah.
I think he's a professional radio guy. That's why. Because he is...
It sounds super professional,
he is ace, man. Like, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's what do they call each other? What's the moniker for
freelancers?
Freelancers. I think it's the Freelancer.
Is it Freelancer Codex? Is that it? Did I make that up?
Now I have to find out. We're giving this guy a plug.
Yeah.
Because it's super quality. And I mean, I didn't go back and listen to it. I think I might have listened to the first couple of episodes, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is a talented individual.
I definitely listened to the first episode. I'm like, oh, this sounds really nice. But, like, I guess me thinking, like, what does this guy have to talk about? Like, I guess I've seen everything because I'm active on, like, the subreddit, the Twitter, and the YouTube, the one scene they have. So I'm like, what am I missing? But maybe I am. I don't know. How does this, like, is he still making content? Like, I was under the assumption he's still making stuff.
I believe so. I'm trying to look it up now. Okay, so we found it. It was Javelin Radio. That was the one. The guy sounds really good. Unfortunately, it looks like he only did a couple of episodes. So
the one that keeps going is Freelancers Codex. That's the one I was thinking of. So we got our memories confused.
Yes. So Javelin Radio guy, if you're out there and by some chance you hear this, you are brilliant. Please, maybe he's taking a break until the game actually comes out. Maybe that's what it is.
Freelancers Codex, I don't think I've listened to an episode, but I'm just so curious what you're talking about for 30 episodes, so I'll listen. That was our plugs for the day. But yeah, Anthem, I kind of... Do you think that... Because they keep saying over and over and over again that the trailer is going to be exactly like the gameplay. Do you think that nothing is going to change? Or if things change, it's either for the better or it just changed in a different direction and it's not that big of a deal?
Was the little tidbit that came out that the demo they were running was running on a PS4 Pro or that it was on a PC with good hardware? I heard something to that effect recently.
I don't remember, to be honest.
In any event, I'm skeptical.
I don't think it was a console, but just because I'm convinced that none of the trailers you find on E3 are run on consoles. Or if it's a console, it's just like it's a PC slammed into a console case.
No, I don't. Yeah, I think mostly they're trying to get the best show, which is almost always going to be PC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm skeptical. I just don't think there's ever been any game in the modern sense in recent history that doesn't have some sort of visual downgrade, at least a slight one. I mean, I just said my piece on Andromeda, how I don't think it's that different, but I do think it's probably slightly different, right? So I think that when Anthem comes out, we should all prepare for the fact that it's not going to be what we saw on the first gameplay reveal, because BioWare and just about every other company, I mean, we just finished talking about it, not even just graphics, but from an actual gameplay standpoint. Dragon Age, Mass Effect, the first gameplay reveal, and what we end up getting is different. That's just always seems to be the case. So I expect Anthem will be a little bit different. That's why I'm the sooner we get something that we can compare, the more we'll sort of know what direction it's going. Yeah,
like you said, like I think things are going to change from the trailer, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I don't think it's really going to change so much, and it's such a terrible direction. Like, if you looked at hey, we're going to race that Andromeda board to 0 now. But if you look at the pre and post Anthem coming or Andromeda coming out, like Andromeda, when they made it look nice and shiny, already looked a bit clunky. things already looked kind of off. People were already saying how the facial animations were kind of strange looking, and we're all like, oh no, it's the trailer. It should, it'll be fine when it comes out, and then it wasn't. Anthem already looks pretty shiny, and even downgraded, I think would look a lot better than Andromeda did. So I know there's a lot of like naysayers and like end of the world, like, soothsayers or whatever talking about Anthem's gonna fail. If Anthem fails, I don't think it's going to be because of the graphics or maybe even the gameplay. If anything, it's just going to be like people are tired of Destiny or whatever. But I feel like this isn't going to be an exact Destiny clone. Like, I feel like they know that Destiny didn't do so hot. They're going to do things some differently. That's my faith in BioWare, and that of the games that I have played of theirs, I've liked a majority of them. So
that's an accurate assessment, I think, right? Because like I haven't played Destiny 2. Fair disclosure, maybe I'll get to it at some point.
I have.
Oh, you have? Did they actually improve the story elements from Destiny 1?
No, I didn't play Destiny 1. Here's where we get sticky.
Okay, well, we can compare because there was virtually no notable story in Destiny 1, honestly, and I found that so disappointing. That to me was the big failing of Destiny. The actual gameplay and the shooting mechanics were fun. I thought the fact that it had no tangible or reasonable story, that's where its failing was. So when I think of Anthem as being like, oh, it's just BioWare's version of Destiny, I'm like, well, that could be amazing if BioWare brings a BioWare story. But what about Destiny 2?
So full disclosure, I did not finish the game because I got extremely bored with it, which should say something. But the story going in, it's like I don't know I don't remember any of like the terms for things in Destiny, so bear with me. But the whatever base you're sitting on, that I guess was like set up in the first game, gets attacked and essentially destroyed, and you get thrown off of it. And like, so you're going through this base, the first level, and you're like, all right, I'm like, oh no, everyone's dying. And like they throw characters at you that I guess you're supposed to know. And like there's this one comedy character that I think is voiced by Nathan Fillion, and he like something about him just made me cringe the entire time. Like he's trying to be funny, and I'm like, who are you? What are you doing? And like the story was just kind of there. That's what I felt. Like I just felt more confused. Not so much by the gameplay, but like I've never really played a game like Destiny, so there's like people helping me out. I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from? Did I invite you? And what's going on?
Yeah.
So, but after that settled in, like the story just kind of was. It wasn't anything I was excited about. It wasn't anything super interesting. It just kind of was a set piece that I guess brought you to the next place where you got to shoot things, which I think was your assessment of Destiny 1.
Yeah, which is something that, I mean, look, it bears repeating that personnel matters and writers are not an afterthought. Joseph Staten is the guy who was a major architect of the Halo universe in writing it in those games, and you can feel the lack of his presence on, because he left BioWare. I think he worked on Destiny 1, but he left somewhere during the development. He left, and you can feel the fact that he's no longer there, and you can, even within the Halo universe, which he helped start, you can feel the lack of his presence in Halo 4 and 5, even though I think Halo 4 was pretty competent as far as story. When it comes to BioWare, they have lost the occasional writer. That being said, Drew Karpyshyn, who has now left BioWare again, by the way. We didn't really cover that when it happened, but Drew has left again, which is fine. He came and he worked on Anthem. Presumably he did whatever writing duties were assigned to him, and once that was complete, he left. So I think, BioWare's best and brightest have been working on this, and, this is the next game from BioWare Edmonton. We kind of have to remember that. Like, the last game that the primary BioWare studio worked on won multiple Game of the Year awards, which was Inquisition. So it's like, I know Andromeda seems like a bit of a misstep, but yeah, this is the next game from Game of the Year award-winning BioWare Edmonton.
And it's now trying to bring this back to marketing. How do you think they're going to handle the marketing for Anthem a little bit? Like, are they going to do kind of going out of trailers? Like Inquisition, they had like I don't know if you remember this, but because they did it for Andromeda too, where they had people like try out for like being extras as voices, and like they said like 2 lucky winners will be given a chance to voice a minor character. Do you remember that?
Did they put that in the game, the final game?
They did. They definitely did for Inquisition, and I think in Andromeda, Carrie, like the person that, like the Asari that interviews you, I think that's the person who won.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
For Inquisition, there was a male and a female. The female is Flissa in Haven, and then the male is I forget the dude's name, but that dude that Sarah kills during her personal quest, who like sounds really schwarmy.
Oh, how fun!
So those are the two winners there. Like, do you think they'll do something like that with Anthem? Do you, like, are they going to have, Dragon Age, this is more after when the game comes out, but Inquisition and Andromeda both had a lot of, like, multiplayer events type of thing, which since this is a multiplayer game, you think they'd have a lot of that. Like, they had that Anthem cornfield come out, which is kind of bizarre. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't remember that?
Wait, what is this? Maybe I do, and it's...
It was pretty soon after the Anthem trailer came out, because like it was around fall time. I guess Bioware just sponsored a cornfield, and so there was a cornfield in the shape of the javelin. One of the that was a maze. That was all right.
I don't think I remember this. I don't know how I must have missed it.
It was. Do you think one of those podcasts is about the secrets in the cornfield?
Oh, it has to be. They've got 30 of them. I mean, why not?
I would do that. Like, what can we attain from a secret cornfield? Is there Morse code hidden within the kernels? Okay, but like they already did like some strange things. Like, what kind of stuff do you think they're going to do with Anthem?
I would love to see something like an ARG. I don't know if you're familiar with like the alternate reality games that have been done as marketing in the past. I mean, I guess probably the most famous one of all time was the I Love Bees thing that they did for Halo 2 back in the day.
I do not remember this at all.
So I Love Bees was basically, I don't remember how they started it, to be honest, but essentially, and I think the site is still up, right? ilovebees.com. It looks like a really basic, like, GeoCities made website from the 90s or something. Mm-hmm. But then it starts to have this, like, cryptic messaging. It looks like it got hacked or something. So, the long story short of it was that players were being sent... Let's see if I can remember this correctly, because it's been a while. Somehow or another, I think players who had signed up on Bungie's website with an actual mail address were getting mailed pieces of puzzles that, when they assembled them, came out to coordinates.
Oh.
And then they were actually going to the physical places in the world, and they were all payphones. And so it would be a location, date, time, and then when they got there, the phone would ring, they would answer it, they would talk to... an actress who was playing one of the main characters of this little audio drama that got pieced together. You would answer the questions correctly, and then on the website, the next audio file or the next piece of the story would unlock. And when players did this continuously, it made like a little radio play, essentially. Like a little radio drama that was about these very ordinary people on Earth in the Halo universe leading up to the events of Halo 2.
I vaguely remember that now because my friend's brother was obsessed with that. Yeah, okay. That would be so awesome if they did something like that.
I will say that the audio files it's one of my favorite things ever. Like, It is so well written. It is so brilliantly acted. Listen to it as a radio play if you never have. It's honestly really, really worth listening to. And some really strong acting. You get really attached to these characters. It's like multiple little snippets. Some are 5 minutes, some are 20 minutes. If Bioware ever did anything like that, that would be really, really creative. Because ultimately, it was just meant to be marketing, but it became its own story.
Okay, this is kind of random, but so there's that Hardin Hightown book coming out pretty soon. It's in like a month or two.
Oh, yeah.
And it perplexes me. So like I'm doing like this, thing where I go over all the Dragon Age novels for people who aren't able to read them. And as you can see, where my well-tabbed, that was all the books I own. Sorry, one more. All the books I own well-tabbed. They're big books. Like, they're about 400, 300 pages between them. This one coming out is 100 pages. And it also has a lot of pictures in it, apparently. That's really short for a book. Like, really short for a book. And, like, some people were theorizing, like, oh, well, maybe, because, like, there is a codex of Hard and Hightown, maybe it's just the codex. Well, I because of my weird position in Dragon Age lore now, like, I've read out and edited the entire Hard and Hightown thing. It's about 40 minutes long when read, and it's only about, like, 11 pages long. What are they going to do for, like, the, like, 80, 99, whatever pages? Like, there's a lot there. So my crackpot theory, that's not going to be true, but what if, and I'd love to see it, it was a puzzle book. So, like...
Wait, puzzle how?
Like, have you, I don't remember what the book's called. There was this book I had when I was a kid. I don't remember the name of it. The thing at the end was like the dodos are back. If you know what I'm talking about, please tell me the name of this book. But it was essentially what it was a bunch of pictures, and like it was kind of an I Spy book. And when you find all the pictures, it would help you crack a code, and then like the code, like you had to go back and forth through all the pages. And essentially, you had a question going in the book, and then like what is coming back or something. And then if you looked at the cover, a certain light, and you had this code, you realize it was a dodo. And so, like, it was this really interesting puzzle book that me and my dad worked on a lot. And I think Gravity Falls even kind of did something a little bit close to this, where they had, like, kind of a lore book kind of come out. And I think they had, like, puzzles come out, and, like, there was portions where you had to look under, like, a black light, and, like, it, like, let you know different lore things. So, like, what if, because the Hard and Hightown, Codex entry talks about the Executors, which is like this strange, mysterious faction that was hinted at Inquisition watching the Inquisition. So what if the next game is going to kind of involve them a bit, and then Hard and Hightown? What if, this is my pitch of what it could be, what if Hard and Hightown, the copy that we get, is an edited copy by the Executors, and we have to slowly figure out by, like, maybe notes in the book, if it's illustrated, like, there's probably some color illustrations, meaning they probably could get some blacklight ink in there, and, like, you know, do, like, all these really cool things, and we have to figure out a puzzle, and then we as a community now have, like, this 100-page book where we have to, like, figure out, like, all the different puzzles in it. Even if that's not what this book ends up being, I would just love that concept of just give me, like, I don't know, just 5 pages of just a puzzle to work out as a community, and I would adore that.
That is a phenomenal idea. There's no way that this book is going to be that good. Like, but they should use that idea. That's a really good... If they did something like that for Anthem, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. And like, maybe because it's... you know, it's more technological based. You could have as like a phone game, and like now there's like what's it called? Andromeda has an app to it. What if it, like, they have an app? I don't know. Like, there's some, like, a lot of cool things you can do with, like, just involving the community and, like, if you just give the community a mystery and have, like, some real world elements to it, we eat that shit up. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially nowadays when people like to be online sleuths on Reddit for better or worse.
God.
But no, I mean, speaking of books and marketing, like, I would love a prequel novel for Anthem. We've gotten that with Mass Effect most times, and I mean, I don't know how much of the story they're ready or willing to reveal, but I would love to have that set up in a novel. I would devour that, especially if there's questions about how much depth there's going to be in the world building and the setting. It would be nice if they addressed some of that in a novel. It would kind of give it its own space for the people that are really into the story more.
They have it for like, don't they have, like, they have Halo novels? Do they have Destiny novels?
I don't know if they have Destiny novels.
I gotta Google this. Give me, like, 2 seconds. Destiny.
I mean, the Grimoire that's like the codex for Destiny, where there is some interesting backstory stuff in there about the world building.
Okay, there is no, at least I'm not seeing a Destiny book. But apparently some guy that helped write Destiny, or wrote some parts of Destiny, is a writer. Anyway, okay, whatever. Point is, I don't know why I slammed on that pig. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, I would, like, I don't know, I just like reading the book, which I haven't actually read any of the Mass Effect books. Have you?
I've read all of them now, except for The one that is disowned because it was just a horrible, riddled with a bunch of lore mistakes and things like that. I didn't read that one.
Yeah, I didn't even know one existed.
Was it Mass Effect Deception? It was written by William Dietz, who, with all due respect to Mr. Dietz, the only other book I've read of his was a Halo novel. It was the Halo novelization for... It was a book called Halo the Flood, which was essentially a novelization of Halo 1. It's god-awful. It was terrible. A complete disconnect. At one point, he has Master Chief, which, if you know even anything remotely passing about Halo, at one point he has Master Chief, quote-unquote, howling with rage as he mows down Covenant, which is like, Master Chief is notably one of the most stoic characters in the history of video games. At no point would he do anything of the sort. But anyway, there's like a weird like sexual tension between him and Cortana, which is like, maybe you could read that into the lore material, but that's a major stretch in most cases. So anyway, with all due respect to Mr. Dietz, it would seem that despite the fact that he frequently writes video game novels, people haven't really taken too kindly to them. Let's just put it that way. That's
so maybe not that guy then, but
so that's the only book from the Mass Effect books that I haven't read. I think I've read most of them twice, actually.
Oh,
except for the new ones. The new ones I've read once.
I have questions for novels. Let's save this for another day. Who writes most of the Mass Effect one? Because the Dragon Age one, all except for one of them, they're all like the writers of the series. Is that the same way for Mass Effect?
Yes. Gator writes most, and then Weeks wrote one for Dragon Age also, yeah.
Yeah, Weeks, Jesus Christ. So the new one that's coming out, that's written by Mary Kirby, who, like, she writes for Varric, and I for some reason, the only ones I can remember writing is Weeks for some reason. I can't remember anyone else's characters, but Mary Kirby's been on the series for, like, forever. David Gator wrote 3 of the 5, and then Weeks did 1, and then the other one, I can never remember her name, is by Leanne Marcel, and I would say, like, this is probably the weakest one, just because it's kind of like, what is the... It just feels out of place a little bit. You could definitely tell, like, 3 of the writers have been in the series, and this girl's kind of new to it, is what I get the feeling, at least. But, that's that.
Yeah, the Mass Effect ones are also done by the authors. So Drew Karpyshyn wrote the first 3, and he was, famously the main writer on Mass Effect 1 and 2, and then part writer on 3. The only one that did not have influence from the game was Mass Effect Uprising, if I'm not mistaken. No, wait, that's not right, because I think Casey Alexander also wrote on the game, if I'm not mistaken. No, I don't think she did. So yeah, I think maybe Mass Effect Uprising is the only one that just had authors on it. The most recent one was from N.K. Jemisin, who's a known science fiction writer, and Mac Walters co-wrote it. Okay.
Well, trying to get this onto marketing again.
Well, novels would be nice as part of the marketing.
Yeah.
An app would be...
at the very least, if they, like, this has been asked about the whole time, and I don't think anyone's ever done it, but an app that syncs with the codex entries you've gotten, because I hate reading codex entries in the game. I want to read codex entries, like, comfy in my chair when I just want to sit down and read something,
Oh, that's true. I like both. But yeah, the Mass Effect 3 app was like that.
Oh, what? Mass Effect 3 had an app?
Yeah.
Today I learned. I didn't know that. Well, there you go. Well, more like, okay, they have the technology. More like that then. Because, like, I did not read any of the Dragon Age Codex entries until someone came up with, like, a PDF version of all of them. And so I just downloaded that onto my phone, and that's how I've read all of them. But, yeah. So I think realistically, though, like, I would not be surprised if they do another, like, voice a character, because I think that's been pretty popular. They're definitely going to have, like, some sort of trailer in the game. One thing I would like to see is... Because they recently closed down their storefront. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I did hear about that. Is it still open as of right now?
No, I think it just closed. Like, I think
Gotcha.
it was like on the 27th was maybe the last day. So, how they say it's closing if you haven't heard, so there's two technical, like, sources for major Bioware merch. One is Sanshi, one is the Bioware store. The Bioware store used to be partnered with ThinkGeek, which if you buy anything from the Bioware store, they have a little ThinkGeek strip on it. And it looks like, for whatever reason, they are suspending their ThinkGeek partnership, and so they're closing down the Bioware store temporarily. We don't know what's going to happen afterwards or whatever, but people are thinking that they're kind of trying to get a new publisher's not the right word, but someone who makes merch, essentially, to kind of get better merch on for Anthem and Dragon Age 4, whatever. Because, like, as much as ThinkGeek did do a lot of interesting, like, there's some good merch there that they have. Like, I feel like they had a lot, like, way too much Andromeda merch, and then, like, not enough Inquisition and, like, all the other merch.
Yeah.
Like, they had so many Mass Effect Andromeda things come out, and, like, seeing, like, what was on for sale those last final days of the Bioware store, like, it was mostly Andromeda stuff, because, like, it obviously didn't do well. Right. But, like, there was a time that I really wanted to buy some Dragon Age stuff, and Sanshi has much better Dragon Age stuff than the Bioware store does. Like, pretty much all of the Dragon Age stuff I own is either fan-made, which is actually just one phone case by Nipuni, hey, and Sanshi. Everything, like, the only Bioware store thing I have, I think, is I bought some Tally leggings, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like that pattern that Tally has, but as leggings. And then my husband bought me a shirt with Skyhold on it. That's it. Everything else is from Sanchi, which does a much better job. So, like, I'm kind of hoping we see what this whole thing was about. Is, like, I hope they either partner up with Sanchi full-time or some other merch maker that does a lot better merch that I'd actually want to buy, because a lot of the stuff that ThinkGeek did wasn't great.
I agree on overall, like, also, like, the operations of, like, the shipping and stuff like that. It took a while, and it was never great. Like, I just kind of feel like a lot of, like, the back end part of the store operation was not up to par with, like, modern day Amazon getting 3 days. Like,
I also heard that it was really bad with, there was something about us, they tried to make a statue for Thane, and a lot of people, like, pre-ordered it and whatever, and then it never actually got made, and then people were delayed getting their money back, and it caused a lot of outrage. I think the same thing for, like, some, like a model of a pistol from Mass Effect. I can't remember quite well.
Yeah, I never had any issues, but you would see that every now and then on different forums. If you had an issue, it was like good luck, unfortunately. Actual customer service solutions took really long time. So all stuff like that could be thoroughly improved.
Yeah, so, like, why, like, a lot of the Dragon Age subreddit, when they kind of announced the store was closing, everyone was like, the end is near, which I think, not accidentally, like, I think the day after that, BioWare announced that it was closing temporarily. Guys, seriously. But, like, I if you didn't hear the updates to the story, I don't think the BioWare store closing is a bad thing. If anything, I think it's they're trying to do a better change and do something, because the BioWare store had some problems and they're trying to fix that, which I think is a positive sign for growth. I get so fed up with
wait,
people.
Hold on. You're telling me people were taking that as like a BioWare is going to end? Because the store was... Oh, good lord.
Did you not... Oh, you must have missed that, because everyone's like,
I saw people, like, kind of freaking out, but I didn't realize people were taking it to that extent.
Yeah. So I think of it as a sign for a growth. They're trying to, like, do a new company, maybe upgrade, whatever. So I don't know. I'm not worried about it, but Lord.
Anything else on marketing?
I think that's all I really had. Just, like, kind of looking at the different types of marketing. And that I think one thing I really wanted to hammer home was that, like, they keep saying that Anthem isn't going to look different. And, like, people are going to start making those comparison videos of, like, oh, look how different it is. And, like, how Jordan said, beforehand, keep in mind that the people making the videos might have an agenda, that they might be playing on the low settings, and so when they compare or whatever, or maybe they even think they're playing on the high settings, but their computer actually can't handle it too well. Like, keep in mind, like, that type of thing. And then also, like, things probably will change, but it might change for the better or in a way that might surprise you. So, like, don't be afraid of changes from what the game looks like and then from what we see in the trailer, because I don't think that means it's bad. The end.
Agreed. And then also, I mean, just like a last note, on one hand, I hope we get more information for Anthem, but on the other hand, I'm a fan now of the Bethesda model, at least the one that they took with Fallout 4, which is like announce and release a bunch of stuff way closer to release date. Mm-hmm. And I think BioWare has kind of hinted that they're more a fan of that approach now going forward. So, you know, the later, the more we have to wait for info, I know the harder it is, but the more likely it is that info is going to be closer to the final product if they're releasing stuff closer to release date. So,
which I will say, it looks like they have been doing that, but it's almost done them a disservice after the failure of Andromeda, because everyone is thinking the silence means that things aren't going well and that things are failing, because people are so used to BioWare at like being a little bit more open, a little bit more like hint giving, when I think it's not so much that they're not saying things because things aren't happening. They're not saying things because they're trying to do a different thing than they did before, and that's freaking people out a little bit. So I don't know.
Next reveal, I think it's going to be much like what it was E3 last year. People's jaws kind of hit the floor when they saw that initial Anthem reveal. I'm thinking, hopefully, fingers crossed, probably a lot of hard work has gone into this period of silence. So maybe BioWare is gonna really sort of prove people wrong again.
Yeah, which I don't want to like preempt us and like promise us we're going to do this, but I'd imagine like our whatever episode. When is E3? June? Is that it?
Something like that.
I imagine like our mid-month episode is going to be kind of closer to the reveal of Anthem stuff, and like
it sucks that they do it, a lot of them during the day. Otherwise, we could try and do a live one.
Oh, that would be fun. Well, if it's on a weekend, we might be able to do it.
Depending on day and time, who knows? Maybe we'll try and do a live one.
Yeah, we'll see. Which I don't know if we'd be able to do a live one. I don't know. I'd be afraid.
I wouldn't. I'd just get a couple rounds of Jameson and just see what happens.
I don't know. Maybe we should try to do more live streaming stuff just for fun. Would that be fun?
That would be fun. I'm not a streamer. I've actually tried a couple of times. And I don't know, man. I have respect for people that can really pull off an interesting stream. For me, video games and RPGs are such an isolated experience. It's like me in my own head. And so it's a weird thing for me to stream, but...
Well, maybe like you need to have a 2-person on there, because I think I've been streaming for patrons, and like it's definitely hard, but it's easier when like it's a smaller group of people and they ask you questions and you can respond and like there's this conversation going.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think if you have like more than one person and like you're talking with people, it's a little bit easier, because there's definitely been times when like I've started like early or something and they're not there and I'm just like, aha, what do I do? Hello, hi, me. Oh look, it's my dog. Like, so streamers. If you really have a good audience with streaming, good luck. It's hard. Anyway, we've rambled on too much. Anything for marketing that you wanted to put on?
Anything for marketing as in my plugs or my thoughts on marketing?
Well, thoughts on marketing, but I'm assuming you're going to say no, so why don't you plug yourself?
Yeah, so people can find me on YouTube under the Exalted March, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, both under the Exalted March.
And we're on iTunes now. If you're listening there, thank you very much. If you want to leave responses, fuck, I can't do iTunes. I'm so used to YouTube. If you want to leave reviews, thank you. We appreciate it. Kisses. Mwah. You can find me at Ghildirthalen on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter, and then Gillanon on Reddit. And I think with that, we've done everything we need to say. So, Daresh Shiral, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now.